I'm Michael Bungay Stania. This is Change Signal. This is the podcast that cuts through the blather, the BS, and the noise to find the good stuff that works in change. If you are a transformational leader and you're seeking modern change mastery, this is where you'll figure out who the real hero of the story is. Okay, marketing and communications in change. When I think of that, I think it is mostly verbose and insipid and flaccid and boring. And that's just the stuff I've been writing. I don't know about you, but I just think most change, comms, and marketing is deeply underwhelming these days, particularly when you realize you're competing against email overwhelm and TikTok and Instagram, all of those things that are so brilliant at grabbing people's attention. So how do you get people's attention? That's marketing, of course. And these days, whenever anybody asks me about how do I do better at marketing, how do I really get that? Well, I tend to point to one person and one book. It's Don Miller, and the book is Build a StoryBrand 2.0. I love this stuff. And at the heart of his marketing brilliance is an obsession about story, about heroes and about disasters and triumphs, and why the journey often matters as much as the destination. So Don, it's nice to see you again.
It's so good to be with you, Michael.
It is a pleasure as always. So where do we start with change, Don? Because a lot of your work is helping entrepreneurs and businesses market to their external customers. But if you're leading change, you have internal customers. And as I said at the top, I think people lose so much in what might be possible with their change programs by how they market it and how they communicate it.
Yeah.
Where would you start in teaching me on how to do a better job?
I think that depending on what you're changing, whether you've acquired another business or you're launching a new product or you've got a whole new strategy moving forward into the market, whatever it is that you're changing, there's the physical changes that are taking place in the boardroom.
Yeah.
Once you pick up the bullhorn and speak from the boardroom to the masses, to your organization, what you really want to do is change the frame. You want to change the way people are thinking about something.
Right.
And in order to do that, the most effective way to do that is to invite everybody into a story. And let me explain kind of how StoryBrand works or why it works, really. Every human being sees themselves as a hero in a story. Every human being. And a story is a character that has to overcome conflict to get something that they want. That's really it. A character overcoming conflict to get something that they want. And so if you want to change somebody's life, if you want to change the direction of their energy, if you want to change their actions, if you want to change their attitude toward change itself, you need to change the plot points of their story.
Right.
And if you can do that, you will change their entire behavior. For example, let's say there's a young man that I had a conversation with recently. He got married a little bit later at about 35, and he had played the field for the last 15 years. I mean, from 20 to 35, he was a serial dater.
And stick with us here, because look, I know this is beginning to sound like a relationship podcast, but Don's actually taking us somewhere that matters.
And his identity as a man was really about the number of gals he could date, and it was catch and release. Michael, it was awful. And he and I sat down and I knew, okay, the way to change this guy's attitude and help him become a successful man is to change the frame. And the frame used to be, how many ladies can you date? And the new frame is, how satisfied can you make one woman?
Right.
And how healthy can you help a child grow up and become? And so he was in a story that was a really fun high school coming of age story. And now you're in an adult story about becoming a man. And we've got to change the definition of what it takes to become a man. So now, what do we want? We want to be an incredible survival asset to a woman and to some children.
Right.
Rather than let's date as many women as we can. So that has to change. What the character wants has to change. The other thing that has to change is the conflict.
Right.
So the conflict used to be, how can I get these women to date me? And now the conflict is, How can I stay faithful and loyal to one woman? So we've got to change that conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Then we've got to change the reward. You are a great man if all these women want you. Now you are a great man if you're able to satisfy one woman, because she's going to be the ultimate test of whether or not you're a good man.
Yeah.
She's going to be. Your children being healthy and not having a father wound is the ultimate test now of you being a great man. And once we just change the dynamics of the story, we change the attitude with which he approaches his life, and we change his actions. And so, really, all we did was change the plot points.
Right.
So, that's the challenge for any leader affecting change. We have now purchased a company. We are now going digital. We are now a leaner team that has incorporated AI into all of our systems.
Yep.
And what you didn't do was change what we want and how we measure success. And we've got to be able to do that. And the way that you do that is with soundbites
Mm-hmm.
that are predetermined, are incredibly strategic, and are repeated over and over so that the people that you are dealing with have them memorized.
Right.
And so that's the challenge of using words and soundbite strategies to affect change.
Yeah. Don's insight here was actually not at all what I was expecting, but I can already see how helpful this might be. Because here's the challenge he's laying down. Can you give me a few tight, memorable insights about the change you're moving through? And by the way, we're going to get into the 5 you need in the second half of the interview, so stick around. But also he's saying, are you repeating those 5 insights ad nauseum? You probably know the quote. I think it's attributed to George Bernard Shaw. The single biggest problem with communication is the illusion it's taken place. How do I move my attention to make the people in my organization actually feel like the heroes in a change process rather than unwitting victims of it?
Yeah, the answer is empathy and over communication.
Right.
Let me give you an example of how this is done poorly. There's a CEO of a company called StoryBrand named Donald Miller who recently made a huge mistake. I'm not even going to throw anybody else under the bus. I can throw myself under the bus. I have a group of StoryBrand certified guides. They're freelance marketers. They use my frameworks to grow their marketing business. I had about 700 of those, and AI came along and began to massively disrupt and take away their incomes.
Right.
So outside of my power, my agency, something began to take their jobs. So I knew that this was coming. I knew that it was going to be scary and tragic and very, very hard on them. And so I decided, you know what? If we stop calling them guides and we start calling them coaches,
Right.
and we actually say, as a coach, you're going to help small businesses navigate the AI opportunities. You're going to become less of an executioner and more of a strategist.
Right.
That is the way that I can help you not just keep your job, but actually make more money and be more valuable to the small business community.
Mm-hmm.
That was perfect. I nailed that.
Right.
What I didn't nail was actually rolling it out and communicating it to the guide community themselves.
Right.
I announced it.
Mm-hmm.
I should not have announced it. What I should have done is gone around the country and had regional meetups and
Right.
said, here's the change that's coming. How are you feeling about it? What are you worried about? Here's my proposed idea. Do you like it? Do you want to buy in? What would you change about it? In other words, I would have told them that my heart is all about you keeping your job and navigating and pivoting this. Rather than that, I treated them like children who just need to do what I tell them to do.
Just linger on that line from Don. Even with your very best intentions, is there any chance you might be treating people like children who just need to do what you tell them to do? It is so seductively easy to slip into this mode.
And let me tell you something, Michael. I should have called you.
Yeah.
If I would have called my friend Michael Bungay-Stanier, he would have said, Don, everything you're about to do is a mistake.
Right.
But in my arrogance, I didn't do it. And I mean this really as a heartfelt warning for every leader listening. You will pay for it if you don't listen. And you will pay for it if you don't get these people involved. In Horst Schulze's language, he ran Ritz-Carlton.
Yeah.
He said, these people will not only leave you, they will become active terrorists against your organization.
Right.
They will have a vested interest in tearing you down.
Right.
Now, the truth is, 60 to 70% were really with me from the get-go. They saw it, they knew it.
Yeah.
But I created a couple hundred active terrorists against my organization.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine where this put me. It put me in the position of, wait, I love you. I care about you. I'm trying to make you money. I'm trying to save your jobs. AI is coming after you.
Right.
And you are on the internet talking badly about me.
Right.
And then I got resentful and defensive.
Right.
I mean, I made every mistake in the book. So let's talk about how not to do what Donald Miller did and what I'm doing now, because now I'm having to play catch up. I am doing individual Zoom calls with the people that I didn't listen to, and I'm apologizing.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, I'm so sorry I didn't listen. How did it make you feel? Well, what I didn't calculate was that changing from guide to coach was ripping apart their identity.
Right.
They were proud of being guides.
Right.
They were not coaches. They didn't see themselves as coaches. And I gave them a name that didn't feel true. It's because I didn't listen. So the very most important thing going into it is listening, understanding and not just trying to get them to buy into your plan, but getting them to help you create the plan itself. This is the reality. AI is coming. We cannot have a plan to stop AI. There is no plan to stop AI. Nothing will work. What's our plan to deal with it together?
How do you manage the anxiety? Because this is a truism that you're speaking, which is like people don't really like change being done to them. They want to do change with you. And in theory, everybody agrees with that. In practice, it's like messy and slow and hard. And what happens if they come up with all sorts of stuff that you're like, that's not even a good idea? How do you find that dance between wanting to engage people and wanting to maintain some control and kind of brand clarity around the work that you're doing?
I do think we need to understand that a percentage of people are not going to come with you.
Right.
A percentage of people are going to be frustrated. A percentage of people are going to blame you for the existence of artificial intelligence.
So it's your fault. At last I figured this out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not capable, in my particular instance, they're not capable of being strategists anyway.
Right.
And they're going to take it out on you. But you can't use that as an excuse.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that is so hard for people who are wired like me, which is virtually everybody watching this podcast, we are not people who are probably very, very hot on empathy. We are extremely driven. We're high D on the DISC test, Enneagram 3s, Enneagram 8s. If everybody does what I tell them to do, they're going to be okay.
Right.
And I want you to know that the number one thing that the people that you lead need to hear is, I love you. I care about you. I will do anything so that you don't get hurt.
Right.
And you do kind of need to embrace, to some degree, metaphorically, the role of mother or father. And you need to care about them the way that you would care about your own children. And when you do that, you mitigate enormous amounts of damage against you.
Right.
Enormous amounts of resistance and what Horst Schulze calls terrorism.
Yeah.
So I think you just have to remember that you're not dealing with something made of plastic and steel. You're dealing with a human being. And as inefficient as it feels to slow down and say, people need to know that I care about them. And not only that, people need to know that I care about them more than my own ego.
Right.
That's the key. I don't care if I'm right anymore. I care whether or not you feel respected by me.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you what the root of this is. Human beings are drawn to and love and spend money on and follow survival assets. People who help them survive and thrive.
I love that. Yeah.
People reject and and reacts to negatively survival liabilities. And the number one thing that makes you a survival asset is empathy. Even if you don't like the medicine that I think you have to take, I care about you.
Right.
And I hate that you're having to go through this process.
Right.
But I do believe, after long, careful thought, this is our best chance of you having a job that you love and being able to provide for your family, because the market is shifting and we have to change.
If you're enjoying this conversation with Don, and I think you probably are, and you might be even thinking, I could do with some help here, you should check out StoryBrandYourBusiness.com. There's actually a way of doing some training with Don there. And for more of the goodness of Don's work in general, go to StoryBrand.com. So I'm hearing two things here, Don. There's a way that you're holding the space to say, look, I have empathy for you and I care about you. There's also a declaration to say, and this is what needs to change, and how we're moving forward with this. Because earlier on when you said you're like, I'll do anything for you, I want to care for you as a parent, part of me is going, well, how do you balance that with trying to make them a hero? You know, if you're trying to make them a child or feel like that as well. But in fact, you're saying you need to know that these things exist as a paradox in tension, which is I can't care for you any more than I do. Like I bring fierce love to you, but also this is the change that we're going through, and this is the process for kind of unfolding around that.
That's exactly it. And so when we're making the customer the hero of the story, let me just draw this out for you. If you're listening, I'll tell you what I'm drawing. If you're watching, you can actually see it. Every story is really the same story. What you've got is a hero.
Yeah.
The hero is walking along and they're at peace. They're stable. Everything is great.
Right.
And then the next thing that happens is the hero falls into a hole which destabilizes their peace.
Right.
So change is really about the destabilization and restabilization of peace. Everything was great, and you guys went and changed it.
Right.
So now we've got a hero in a hole.
Right.
So what happens is a new character comes along, and this character is called the Guide. This is Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is Yoda. This is Mr. Miyagi. This is Mary Poppins.
Right. This is Telemachus in the Odyssey. You know,
exactly. There's a guide who helps the hero win. So the guide comes to the edge of the hole, looks down in the hole and says, I am so sorry you were in that hole. I feel for you.
Empathy.
I don't like this for you. It may even be a hole that I had to create that you fell in, but I feel for you. That is a very important step. So first, you acknowledge the hole.
Yeah.
You name the hole. The hole is we just bought an airline. The hole is we just incorporated AI and laid off 20% of our workforce.
Yeah.
It's a hole. Then you throw a rope into the hole. And the rope is our change. This is our plan. This is our product. This is what we are doing to get you out of the hole and return you to a sense of peace.
Nice.
So there's 3 states. 1 is peace. 2 is destabilization of peace. And 3 is a return to peace.
I love that.
Okay? Now, let me give you the 5 sound bites that you need,
please,
in order to invite somebody into a story in which they are restabilized. And guess what the acronym is? It's PEACE.
Yeah.
So the P stands for problem. You've got to identify the problem.
Right.
You've got to say, here's the problem we are in. The next, and we've talked about this, and it's something that you are so good at, and I've learned from you in so many ways, Michael, is empathy. I empathize. I feel your pain.
Yeah.
Next is the answer. So the answer is either the product you are selling or the plan that we've incorporated to get us back to peace.
Yeah.
Then the change. And the change is, this is how you are going to be different.
Right.
After you institute this plan. And then finally, the end result. So the end result is the happy ever after scene.
So let me recap 5 sound bites and peace. Problem, empathy, the answer, the change required, and the end result. I mean, it sounds obvious, doesn't it? But that's actually its strength.
So let me give you an example. We had a company come to us called You Need a Budget. You Need a Budget is a $50 million finance app on the App Store. They make $50 million a year. They're incredibly successful, have a cult following, and are extremely well-led organization with a CEO named Todd Curtis. They've never had a year where they haven't grown. However, they feel like they're not reaching their potential. So let me tell you the sound bites we came up for them to grow their organization, and it's already working.
That's great.
The problem is, have you ever worried about money? Now,
I love that. Yeah.
Now, do you know anybody, Michael, who's ever worried about money?
There are maybe 1 or 2 people I can think of who that may have crossed their mind now and then.
That's exactly it. So now we've identified our target market, which is every human being. The empathy is, we know how it feels to worry about money. Don't overthink this.
Yeah.
It's just, hey, the market is changing and we've had to change as a company. And we know how it feels to be frustrated with change.
Yeah.
We like the way things were too, but they had to change. And we know this is frustrating to our entire workforce.
I'm loving that. Don, I'm going to interrupt you taking me through the sound bites. I just want you to tell me what the essence of a sound bite is.
A sound bite is a fixed phrase that is memorable and repeatable.
Right.
That's it. A fixed phrase that is memorable or repeatable. And it's the peace framework, these 5 sound bites, it's an exercise in memorization.
Right.
We are trying to get the people we are leading to memorize these 5 sound bites.
Right.
And when we do so, going back to our initial point, we're reframing the story of everybody listening.
Perfect. Okay, that's helpful.
So have you ever worried about money? We know how it feels to worry about money.
Yeah.
Download the YNAB app. That's it.
Right.
That's the rope going into the hole.
That's the answer. Yeah, that's the rope.
Download the YNAB app, and we will help you get good with money. That's the change.
Right.
And the end result is, so you never worry about money again.
Right.
5 sound bites that walk to the edge of the hole, say, I'm so sorry you're in a hole, throw a rope in, pull them out, and restabilize their piece. Now, those sound bites have to be shipped in a messaging campaign, which means we're going to put them on our website, we're going to put them in our speeches, we're going to put them in YouTube videos, we're going to put them on our social media.
Yeah.
We're going to put them on the wall in trade shows. The company YNAB, since they started using these sound bites on their social media, have grown by 400% in 1 month.
Wow.
And because they've had some stuff go viral, right?
Yeah.
It's on their trade show backdrop. Let us help you get good with money. In fact, get good with money is their new tagline.
Right. So where do people go wrong in terms of crafting sound bites? Because I can imagine some people listening to this going, look, well, we've been trying this, Don, and we've been building out the messaging. But like the company you're just quoting, my guess is they had okay messaging, but it was too much and too blunt and too non-poignant, if that's the right way to put it. So how do I sharpen my capacity to build a soundbite?
The mistakes that they make, any company, they're too elusive. Their sound bites are too complicated. They're too hard
clever
to understand.
Right.
For instance, YNAB changed the header on their website from change your relationship with money to never worry about money again. Now, which do you think is the more attractive offer?
I like a good rhetorical question, Don. It's the second one, right?
The second one.
Yeah.
So which one is going to get more clicks in an ad? Never worry about money again.
Right.
So we say things like change your relationship with money, when really, if you read that statement, what in the world does that even mean?
Right.
And if you're elusive, or if you're causing, we always say around my office, don't make people think.
Right.
And as soon as you start making people think, double-digit percentages of people start tuning out.
Right.
Don't make people think.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of like with my daughter, she's 4 years old. She says, Dad, will you play with me? I keep making the mistake of saying, yeah, what do you want to play? The truth is, she doesn't care. Like, she
Right.
just wants to play. So what I need to do is say, what if we play bakery?
Yeah.
Or what if we play, if we're in the pool, it's mermaid, get back in your cage. That's the game we play.
A classic.
Where I throw her to one end of the pool, she tries to swim away, I catch her, I throw her back, and she loves mermaid, get back in your cage.
I thought you were the mermaid being put back in
I've
the cage.
always wanted to be, but she's never let me. I always have to be the zookeeper, Michael. So the idea is like, you're inviting people into a game. Do not make them define the game. You're the leader.
Right.
Here's what we're going to do. Now, you've done this in association with them, so we've defined the game together. But I think that you're making people think, you're being vague, you're being cute, you're being clever, you're being sophisticated. None of that works.
Yeah.
Be clear.
Right. There's also something about being able to appeal to both a kind of a rational and an emotional thing at the same time. And, it's not just kind of getting me in my head intellectually trying to figure some stuff out. It's actually striking me in a way where I'm like, have you ever worried about money? Oh, bang.
Yes.
Get good with money. Oh, it makes me feel something, not just think something. Do you have any guidance around how I weave both an emotional hit and an intellectual hit at the same time into a soundbite?
Yeah, what you want to do to capture people's emotions is you want to own a problem. When you're telling a story, the story really doesn't get interesting at all until there's a problem.
Right.
So if I'm telling you a story, let me tell you a story, Michael. Let's make a rom-com. Let's write a rom-com right now. Guy walks into a coffee shop, sees a young woman across the room, walks over, says, I just noticed you. You're really cute. My name is Don. Can we talk? Sits down, meet cute, great chemistry. She says, I know this is crazy, but my parents are in town. Do you want to meet them? The next scene is meets the parents. The next scene, they're at a church. The next scene, they're married. The most boring story in the history of the world because there's no conflict.
I mean, I'm delighted for them, but it's a pretty boring story.
But why in the world did I pay $10 for this movie ticket?
Right.
If I say, okay, let's change that. Guy walks into a coffee shop, meets a young woman. There's clearly a lot of chemistry. And suddenly, 10 minutes into the conversation, she says, this is inappropriate. I can't have this conversation. I'm so sorry. Packs her bag, walks out. He doesn't get her phone number. He doesn't know her name.
Right.
Now we've got a story because there's conflict.
Right.
The love of his life just walked out of the coffee shop. And now we're wondering, how are they going to get back together?
Yeah.
Let's make it worse. He gets a call from his mother later that day. She says, come home for dinner tonight. Your brother is back in town. And he's got an announcement. And he says, I can't even believe you guys still talk to my brother. He's a con artist. He's stolen all your money.
Right.
He's the worst person in the world. I told you never talk to him again. I know he's your son. No, he's changed. He's changed. He goes home for dinner. The brother walks in with the woman at the coffee shop introducing her as his fiance. Now we got a story.
This is my story, Don. This is exactly, I've lived the story. I had no idea you knew so much about me, but that's fine.
Well,
we can move on from
hopefully,
that.
Michael, you ended up with the girl.
I don't even want to talk about it. It's not a comedy. I'm just saying it's a tragedy, but that's fine.
Listen,
no, I'm kidding.
Every great leader is going to stand up and say, conflict is here.
Yeah.
And here's exactly what it is. Here's the hole we are in. But we're going to get out of it. So the way to emotionally resonate with the audience, interestingly enough, is to go negative.
Right.
And when you go negative, it's interesting, it's urgent. But the other thing is, you are not perceived as negative. The situation is perceived as negative.
That's interesting.
You are perceived as positive because you have the rope that gets everybody out.
Yeah.
And the worse the negative is, the more valuable you are as the leader because you're getting everybody out of a really bad situation. That's why you'll never see a politician say, America has some mild problems that will not be difficult to fix. And when we're done fixing them, we will be mildly in better shape, but you probably won't even notice a difference.
Right. Just loving what Don says here. The situation is negative, which actually allows you to be seen as positive because you have the rope. There's something here about figuring out how to calibrate the challenge ahead. So you're not making it terrifying and impossible, but you're also not pretending it's just a small dip in the road. Really, the question is, what's the right heft of problem? So your offer of the rope is both useful and welcomed.
You can't get elected that way. You got to say, it's awful.
Yeah.
Everything is terrible, but I'm going to fix it and make it great. Stories love contrast. And so, and the reality is America is in bad shape, and you probably are leading through some change that is negatively affecting people, and you've got to have a plan to get them out. But I think that I always tell people, if you talk 75% about the problem and 25% about the solution will be perceived as even more valuable.
Got it. That's really helpful. I think what's really helpful in that, Dom, which is just not just leading with the problem, which is something I learned from you and I've told 1,000 people, which is, I think you gave me this phrase, which is people buy medicine, they don't buy vitamins. So
that's right.
It's this idea that you got to identify the problem and then the medicine that might fix it. But what I hadn't realized, and it's brilliant, is you as the leader don't get associated with that problem. You get to kind of point to it and going, this is how we will get through this problem together. So you kind of make the common enemy between you and the people that you're leading through change.
Yeah, if you want to make a hero look good in a story, create a diabolical villain.
Right.
And the worse that villain is, the more pure and righteous and holy the hero looks. And so, as a leader, you've got to create a villain and you've got to articulate why they are so dangerous and why this is so painful and why they are so dark and the threat that villain presents to our community and our culture and the fact that we're not going to be taken down by that villain. And here's our plan to not be taken down by that villain.
I love it.
And when you do that, people say, okay, every human being is motivated by moving towards something positive and away from something negative.
Yep.
And if you are only presenting a positive vision of the future, but not a negative reality we are running from, you're half motivating everybody in the room.
Right. Don, what wisdom would you share about, having developed these 5 sound bites, how you then move that communication through an organization? Because people are overwhelmed. There's too much in their inbox. There's too much in their texting. People are spending enough time on social media, pulling them with other messages. People have so much communication coming at them. Is there any insight you've got around how do you help people to notice the communication you're putting out there?
It is, and it's what we do. It's what I do as a consultant. It's turn everything into a memorable soundbite.
Right.
Now, let me tell you something, Michael. I'm a writer. I write books. You write books.
Yeah.
I love writing books. I love spending a year writing a book. It's my favorite thing. I just love it.
Yep.
If I write a book about how we're going to solve a problem and a competing leader comes up with a soundbite, everybody's going to follow the soundbite. In other words, if I spend 1,000 hours writing a book and somebody else spends 4 minutes with a napkin, they're going to beat me.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example. Jeb Bush wrote a book about immigration.
Yep.
You read it?
I love that book. No, I have not read this book. Yeah.
I haven't read it either. He lost the election to a guy who said build a wall.
Right.
In other words, thousands of hours writing a detailed book about how to deal with this problem.
Yeah.
Lost to 3 words.
Right.
And I would say to you as a leader, you're going to lose. Nobody's going to follow you unless you have reduced this into a message that can be passed around at the water cooler.
Right.
And then you've got to say it so many times that you feel almost silly repeating it again. You've got to put it on a red hat with white letters. I mean, I went to Finland 8 time zones away when Donald Trump was running for president. I said, what does Donald Trump want to do with America? In a Finnish accent, 8,000 people at a conference said, make America great again. Now, listen, I'm not a fan of the Republicans or the Democrats. I think they're both not really helping.
Yeah, this is not a political comment.
It's not a
It's a
political conversation.
observation that Donald Trump has a brilliance around soundbite.
He has a brilliance around sound bites, and he was trained in the media, and you can learn something from him.
Yeah.
And I think that it's in a way, this is easier than you thought it was going to be.
Right.
But it takes enormous amounts of discipline to stick to that message and repeat it over and over and over again.
Okay, so let me run this past you. P, the problem. The way we approach change is tired and dated and broken and not fit for purpose and also doesn't even work. So E, empathy. Well, look, no wonder it's hard for you as a transformational leader. You're being set up to fail. A, the answer, change signal offers modern change mastery. C is the change required to go through it. So it's time to find and incorporate the good stuff that works and leave behind the old ways. And finally, E, the end result. Give yourself the best chance of success for you and your organization in your transformational work. I think that works pretty well. I hope that's the reason you're listening to Change Signal. Thank you for listening and for supporting the podcast with your reviews and your reposts and your recommendations. Thanks for doing the work. I'm glad you're here.